But was there a comedian you looked up to, you idolized when you first got into that business?
Yeah, George Carlin was my favorite.
Oh yeah.
As a matter of fact, I got to know him quite well. I
It's
had very few people know this story, but it's a really cool story. When I was at the beginning of my comedy career, I was getting hassled by some of the comedians telling me I was stealing material, and I know I wasn't. And they were saying I was stealing this from that person, this from that person. I was getting very, very frustrated. And just because I was talking about the same subject doesn't mean that I'm stealing material. I'm just talking about the same subject. People start talking about how many comedians talk about their parents. It doesn't mean they're stealing material.
uh-huh.
It's the same subject. If you're talking
Right.
about cats and dogs, it's the same subject. So anyway, I was getting very frustrated. I was very sensitive back then too. And I was at a comedy club called the Comic Strip in Fort Lauderdale, and we were staying at what they call the Comedy Condo. That's what it would put the comedians. Really cool places. And there was a guy named Tony DeAndrea who was opening up for me. And he told me, he goes, I can't believe you've only been doing this a year and a half, and you're just so established. And he said, what are your plans? I said, this might be my last show. I'm going to quit. I'm not going to do this anymore. And he said, why? And I told him, I can't take the politics. I can't handle that. Just, it's not worth it. So he told me he knew George Carlin. And I thought he was full of crap. And one Saturday afternoon before the Saturday show, I'm sitting in the comedy condo and the phone rings. They didn't have cell phones then. It was a regular landline phone. And a guy named Bill, one of the comedians, answers the phone. He goes, Steve, George Carlin's on the phone. He wants to talk to you. Oh, and yeah, right. So I pick up the phone, right? I go, yeah, Rizzo here. And he goes, Steve, it's George Carlin. I went, yeah, right. I hung up on him.
No way. You hung
I
up
didn't
on him?
know. I didn't know it was him. I thought it was, comedians are always pulling jokes on people. He calls me back immediately and he said, let me tell you something, motherfucker. He goes, I hope I can curse on your show. He goes, let me tell you something.
Well, just
This is what
moderate
he said, though. Yeah.
it.
Let me tell you something, motherfucker. You hang up me one more time, you're going to miss an opportunity. And I realized it was him. I said, oh my God, George, I'm so sorry. I thought it was somebody. He goes, okay. He goes, Tony tells me that you're having a problem. Talk to me. I couldn't believe it. I'm looking at the phone and I told him. He said, okay, all right. He goes, I don't have much time to talk now. He goes, I'm at the Sands Hotel and I'm in Atlantic City, which, by the way, is where I did my Showtime special. And he said, you got a pad and pen? I said, yeah. Write down my Beverly Hills home. Call me next Tuesday at this time, California time. I couldn't believe he gave me his home phone number. I write it down. That Tuesday came. I called him at the exact time. He picks up. He's he says, George here. I said, George, Steve Rizzo goes. He goes, well, it's good to hear from you. I'm glad you called me back. So then we talked for a while, and he was telling me that he went through the same stuff, and you just got to go through it. He goes, but but Tony says you're really funny. He goes, do you have a VHS tape of yourself? Back in the day, that's all they had. I said,
VHS.
yeah, I got a whole half-hour presentation. He goes, will you send it to me? I copied his address. He goes, and I'm going to be brutally honest with you. I'm going to tell you whether I think you should stay in this business or you need a lot of work or whatever. And I'm going to let my manager, who was his wife at the time, watch it and blah, blah, blah. A couple of weeks go by and I get a letter, handwritten note from George Carlin. Dear Steve, I looked at your video quite a few times. I showed it to my manager and my wife, and I showed it to some friends. We all agreed that you are hysterical. You definitely have what it takes. If I find out that you quit, I will take a flight from Los Angeles to JFK in New York, find out where you live, knock on your door, and beat the living shit out of you. Love, Joe.
That's awesome, man.
And
That's a great story.
Here's the cool thing, Rob. He kept in touch with me until the day he died.
No kidding.
Until the day he died. Every now and then he would just call me. And it was just such an emotional vibe for me, you know?
Yeah.
And he invited me to his first HBO special at Carnegie Hall. He said, bring a guest, but I didn't want to bring a guest. I just wanted to go by myself. And wasn't it ironic that 3 rows in back of me, and I'm not going to mention their names because they're very famous today, they're sitting in back of me. Okay. The same guys that were hassling me about taking material. Before the show starts, I'm sitting in primo seats. Before the show starts, a security guard gets on the stage and says, is there Steve Rizzo in the audience? And I stood up and he goes, Mr. Rizzo, Mr. Carlin, I would like to meet you after the show. And we'd like to take his wife and I would like to, and him would like to take you out to dinner after the show. I just went, and everyone started clapping. And I turned around, I looked at those guys that were giving me a hard time. I didn't look at them, but I went like this. Right. And that's
Oh
how
my
I got
God.
to really know. Yeah.